that there must be a primary source of actually gaining intel. Remember, collecting information, sending it for analysis. Here's a quote, right? And I've cited and provided all the links to this, all the .gov pages. This is not me, this is the government, right? And it's all publicly accessible information. So this is 2, conducting investigations, and then 3 is the quote. Quote, the FBI has 56 field offices, right? These are field offices, or the divisions, also called divisions, centrally located in major metropolitan areas across the United States and Puerto Rico. They are the places where we carry out our investigations, assess local and regional crime threats, and work closely with partners on cases and operations. Each field office is overseen by a special agent in charge, except our offices in Los Angeles, New York, and Washington, D.C., which are headed by assistant director charged due to the large size of these communities, obviously. Within these field offices are a total of about 400 resident agents located in smaller cities and towns. Resident agents are managed by supervisory special agents. Okay, so cool. Later I'll talk about stats, sort of a statistical analysis with respect to regional offices and local offices, because that number is those numbers will be important later, but I don't want to jump the gun. Right, so this is basically discussion of the field offices, right? Alright, so we know we have 56 field offices for the Joint Terrorism Task Force, the JTTF. We know that they're situated in metropolitan areas with respect to, excluding New York, DC, and I think it was LA. New York, DC, and LA. We learned about the hierarchy and the structure. Okay, that's all well and good. Okay, so we get that. So that's level 1 of our regional clearinghouse. And the first regional, this is my phrase, right? The first regional clearinghouse is the JTTF. The second regional clearinghouse is, I just abbreviated DHSFC, the Department for Homeland Security Fusion Center, right? And I'll talk about what a fusion center is and the function that the fusion center has, and why I'm saying that fusion centers and JTTF are sort of horizontally aligned. And I would also include the Joint Regional Intelligence Center, but I haven't, right? I'm not including, I'm going to just look at these 2, just because. Alright, so the Department of Homeland Security Fusion Center, right, and I'm just Department of Homeland Security Fusion Center, right, DHSFC, as another regional, right, federal, larger, 2 regional that we're discussing, JTTF and DHCFC. Second point of the Fusion Center. The fusion centers are divided into 72 regional fusion centers, and I've provided a link. I think the link, I'll go back and check it, but the link, it goes to the map. So the link will take you to the actual map of the fusion centers, and you know, it's an interactive map, pretty cool. You can look and see where these fusion centers are, right? When I read the description of the fusion center, you'll see why I was a bit confused, and I still am a bit confused, right? So the fusion centers, regional level, my phrase, 72 of them, fusion centers, 56 terrorism task forces. Okay, and the function, right? So there's 72 of these. 72 was put centers, and the function of these, and this is a quote. This is not from me, right? The quote is analyze and share intelligence. Remember when we were talking about the CAD intelligence model, and this is how I sort of recognized the CAD intelligence model was reading through all of this code. Right? The CAD intelligence model says that there is going to be, assumes that there's going to be information out there. That information needs to be collected, and that information needs to be assessed. Well, then you look and you see that on the, where's number 12 go to? On the Department of Homeland Security Gov page, we recognize that they say the function of the Fusion Center is to analyze and share intelligence, right? So that makes sense. That maps directly onto our CAD, collection, analysis, and dissemination, that maps directly onto the CAD intelligence model. So, analyze and share intel. A-N-A-L-Y-Z-E, and share. Alright, I'm going to analyze and share intel. And then I think it might be the same page, no, different page, different website. Like I said, this information is collected from all over the net. It took a long time to sort of piece this together, but you know, Now you have it in one spot. Okay, so the third thing is, well, first the Fusion Center is divided into 72 national centers. We recognize that they're charged with analyzing and sharing the information, whereas the JTTF is charged with conducting investigations. So automatically you can recognize that the association between the Fusion Center and the JTF is that information is going to be channeled from the Fusion Center to the JTTF. That's obvious, right? Because if you're charged with conducting an investigation, having investigation knowledge assumes that you have intel, and collecting that intel and analyzing that intel would first have to go through this phase. So it seems to be the case, obviously, that the Fusion Center is going to analyze and assess the information, transfer that information to the Joint Terrorism Task Force, and they'll act on that information for arrests and so on, you know, interrogation if it escalates to that level and what have you. Alright, quote, these centers, that is the Fusion Centers, these centers analyze information and identify trends to share timely intelligence with federal, state, and local law enforcement, including the Department for Homeland Security, which then the Department for Homeland Security shares this information with other members of the intelligence community, right? So then DHS sends it to the CIA, to the DOD, to the whoever, okay? Which then further shares this information with other members of the intelligence community. In turn, the Department for Homeland Security provides relevant and appropriate threat information from the intelligence community back to the Fusion Center. Now that's important, right? So we have our federal government here and all the many different branches of intelligence community. Then we're going to have the... Do I have this on the next page? Actually, I'm jumping ahead, but I in a sense, have to draw this out. I don't do this until the very end. I'll jump around because a lot of it is just legal code, which I don't need to get into. Yeah, I do, so might as well. Then we have the JTTF, right? The Joint Terrorism Task Force and its 56 offices. And then we have the Fusion Centers, right? The Department for Homeland Security Fusion Centers, right? And what do we have here? It says these centers, the Department for Homeland Security Fusion Centers, these centers analyze information and identify trends to share timely intelligence, to share this information, this intelligence, right? Arrow going up. Share this information, share timely intelligence with federal, state, and local governments. So the information is going to the federal level, but it's also going back down to the state level. So to show you then the structure, we need to recognize what this state level is, right? What's at the, I don't want to say the bottom, but really what's on the conceptual bottom of this structure. And it is the local law enforcement, right? Local law enforcement is, and I'll just, local, actually let me erase some of this, because I don't have room. So we're looking at local law, C-E-M-E-N-T, right? Local law enforcement, I'll just abbreviate that LLE, so I don't have to write that out anymore. So local law enforcement, and there's a phrase that I saw repeatedly throughout many of the docs that I was reading, the various PDFs that I was reading. State, local, tribal, and territorial, which is just abbreviated SLTT, right? So I'm saying that the LLE, the local law enforcement, and the state, local, tribal, and territorial, SLTT, that's like on a level as well, right? So we have the, what is it? State, local, tribal, and the last is what, territorial, right? SLTT. So at the bottom we have LLE and SLTT, right? So we have the local law enforcement and the state, local, tribal, and territorial at the bottom. So now we have the structure. Now let's read again. Again, I'm on page 4, the quote for the Department of Homeland Security Fusion Center. These centers analyze information, and identify trends to share timely intelligence with federal and local law enforcement. Right? Obviously, they got their information in part from local